Hey guys, it's Alyson. I just wanted to give a content warning for this episode because we will be covering children and like the death of young children, and that can especially be triggering with recent events that have happened. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that. If it's not something you can listen to, I completely understand. But with that being said, let's get into the episode. Hello everyone, and welcome to Bookish Babbles, the podcast where we reread our favorite books and chat about them. I'm your host Alyson, and without further ado, let's get started. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 17 of Bookish Babbles. Today we are talking about chapters 16 to 18 of The Hunger Games, and we are wrapping up part 2 already. Yeah, we are like more than halfway through this book. I can't believe it. Before we get started, there are just a couple things I wanted to mention. First and foremost, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series is taking over my whole personality right now. Like, I can't stop thinking about it. I've watched the new episodes multiple times, and like I feel like I'm 10 years old again watching the prequels for the first time. Like, I'm just so freaking, I love it so much. And light spoilers, but younger version of a character I did not expect to see means so much, and I freaking love it. Because I'm a child of the prequel era, because I was 7 when Revenge of the Sith came out, though I wasn't allowed to see it in theaters. I still had to wait a couple more years, but so Ewan McGregor, he is like my Obi-Wan Kenobi that I've had growing up, and I love him. He's so good in the role, and I love it so much. And if you haven't seen the show yet, go watch it. And I need the episode 3 now. I need the next I need all the episodes of the show now. And also wanted to tell you guys that so next week my mom and I are going to Ireland. So this is a trip that we've been planning, that we originally planned to do in the spring of 2020, but for obvious reasons we weren't able to go. So I will not be doing any recording next week. So for the next couple of weeks, I do have 2 bonus episodes that I pre-recorded and will come out while I'm gone for the next couple weeks. So one is an episode that I recorded myself, and then the other is one I recorded a while ago with Gabby. It was around the time we did the social media book tag, and I've been saving the other one for when I went away and knew I would not be putting out a new episode. And then when I get back, we'll pick up where we left off in the read along. So with that being said, let's get into the episode. So last week, Katniss barely survives the wildfire, drops a tracker-jacker nest on the careers, and gains a bow and arrow in the process. Peeta saves her life, Katniss and Rue become allies, and they scheme to strike a deadly blow to the careers. This week, Katniss and Rue enact their plan. The results are rather explosive, and Alyson suffers more emotional damage. So with all that being said, let's dive into chapter 16. So I'm just going to start off by reading the first paragraph. Rue has decided to trust me wholeheartedly. I know this because as soon as the anthem finishes, she snuggles up against me and falls asleep. Nor do I have any misgivings about her, as I take no particular precautions. If she'd wanted me dead, all she would have had to do was disappear from the tree without pointing out the tracker-jacker nest. Needling me at the very back of my mind is the obvious. Both of us can't win these games, but since the odds are still against either of us surviving, I manage to ignore the thought. So Suzanne just really wants to make sure that I experience as much emotional damage as possible later on. Anyway, Katniss then starts to think about how they can get rid of the career supplies. Once the careers are cut off from their food supplies, they'll really struggle since they don't know how to feed themselves. Usually the careers gather all the food they can from the cornucopia and guard it in order to make it last, and typically the years when they fail to protect the food are the years when someone from other districts win. So, despite all their training, as skilled as they may be in combat, the fact that they've been well fed is a disadvantage in the games. But Katniss is currently pretty tired, so instead of coming up with a detailed plan, she goes to sleep. And these lines, again, toward the top of page 209, just make me emotional. The warmth of Rue at my side, her head cradled on my shoulder, have given me a sense of security. I realize for the first time how very lonely I've been in the arena, how comforting the presence of another human being can be. Just a casual reminder that no matter how strong Katniss is, no matter how smart and capable she is and we look up to her, she's still a 16-year-old child, and again, she's constantly in go, go, go survival mode. She doesn't get a chance to be vulnerable, especially now in the Hunger Games. It's a very extreme situation. And what's interesting reading these books now in my 20s is how I see these characters, because it's really different. Because, most of my favorite series, all the main characters that I grew up with were either my age or older, so they've always felt like peers that I looked up to. Because I was 14 when I read The Hunger Games, so Katniss was a character that I could look up to. Because, when at 14, 16-year-olds seem so much older and, more mature and capable. Because, they can drive. I couldn't at 14. But now in my 20s, I wonder, how we even trust 16-year-olds to learn how to drive. They are children. So now when I read this series, it's like on the one hand, when I read this book, in a lot of ways, I'm transported back to that time, and Katniss does feel like a peer, but at the same time, I'm sit down, small child, because now, instead of being the same age as me, Katniss, is the same age as my younger cousins, whom I'm really protective of, and in my mind I still see as small 10-year-olds. It's kind of hard, it's a hard feeling for me to explain. I hope this makes somewhat sense to you guys, otherwise I'm just rambling a bunch of nonsense. Anyway, at some point in the night, Katniss and Rue are woken up by the boom of a cannon, and they wonder who it could be. They go through the list of who's left, which is the boy from 1, both from 2, Thresh, Peeta, and the boy from 10. But they can't remember who the last person is. Spoiler alert, Foxface. But the good news about a death is that it means the audience will be satisfied for a little bit. That means Katniss and Rue have some time to make their move. Then Rue shows Katniss the eggs she got for breakfast from a water bird. They eat the eggs raw since they don't want to risk a fire in case the careers are nearby, since it's very possible that the person who died was killed by the careers. Then Katniss tells Rue that they'll think of a plan to destroy the careers' food while they hunt, though they don't get much hunting done, mostly because Katniss keeps asking Rue questions about the careers' camp, how it's set up, and where the stuff is, since Rue did spy on them from the trees for a bit. Rue tells her that the careers are set up by the lake, which is a good idea since, easy access to the best water source in the arena. The supply stash is about 30 yards away, and the boy from 3 is left to guard it during the day. Though, according to Rue, she's not sure why they're working with him since he's not very big or physically strong. Though he does have a spear, so he's not completely defenseless. Doubt he knows how to use it, though. And Thresh could take him out easy. Either way, something's not right about this whole setup. Why is all their food out in the open? Anyway, Katniss assures Rue that she'll think of a way to destroy the food. Then they gather roots, berries, and devise their strategy. And during this time, they also get to know each other. Katniss learns that Rue is the oldest of 6, gives her rations to her younger siblings, forges in the meadow for food, and other than her family, what Rue loves most in the world is music. And there's a line at the bottom of page 211 that's really kind of sad, so I'll read it for you guys, like I do. In our world, I rank music somewhere between hair ribbons and rainbows in terms of usefulness. At least a rainbow gives you a tip about the weather. First of all, ribbons can help tie your hair back. That way it's not in your face when you're cooking or whatever. So they're not useless the way you're implying here, Katniss. Also, if you're new here, hello. One of my favorite themes of this series that is almost completely absent from the movie is music. So I'm going to go on a tangent for a bit now. So this just adds another layer to how shitty Katniss's life is. I mean, other than the fact that she's, being forced to fight to the death. Her life back home isn't that great because things like losing a parent suddenly at a young age, having to grow up fast at 11, and almost starving to death are traumatizing, so I've been told. Katniss hasn't really had a chance to be a kid, especially not since her father died. She's been in survival mode ever since then. She doesn't do anything for fun, just to make herself happy. She's cut music from her life since her father died because, she doesn't deem it useful, though I think she does it maybe because it a bit more subconsciously as a way to put up a wall and try to suppress her emotions. Because music reminds her of her dad in a very personal way since he was known for having a great singing voice and taught his children songs. And music is also just something that is undervalued in society overall. In schools when they need to make budget cuts, it's always the music and arts programs that suffer the most. But I'd argue that music is just as important for living as things like food and shelter, and I know Suzanne and this book series agrees with me because in Ballad, Lucy Gray has the line where she says something along the lines of, sometimes hungry people need music just as much as food. And the symbol of those series is a mockingjay, a songbird. Music, it just has a way of making me feel like more alive and grounded, and the fact that it isn't part of Katniss's day-to-day life shows that she's not really living, she's only surviving. Oh my god, I just realized that Katniss and Coriolanus go through like opposite journeys in regards to their relationship with music in their stories. Because at the beginning of Ballad, Coriolanus liked music fine, it was his connection to his mother and to Lucy Gray, obviously, but by the end of the book he just pretty much writes off music entirely. And as for Katniss, in the first book, music is not part of her life. Then toward the end of Mockingjay, music and the songs that her father taught her plays an important role in helping her heal mentally after all the tragic losses and trauma. And, that part the movie skipped over entirely. But speaking of Ballad, I wonder what would have happened if music at the Hob had never been banned. I mean, it would eventually happen because, the Pan Am government likes to keep its citizens as depressed as possible. And the Covey being banned from playing represents, a kind of last of the rebellion that was lingering in District 12 dying away. But had they been allowed to keep playing and pass on their songs and instruments to their descendants, Katniss would have gotten to grow up with that music being so much more present in her day-to-day life, and it would have brought her a little bit more joy. And also a good chance that she would have been participating in the shows because I think we all, or most of us at least, agree that Katniss is Maude Ivory's granddaughter, and I subscribe to that theory even more than the Lucy Gray is Greasy Say one. By the way, if you want to hear me talk about a few more theories regarding Ballad, go listen to the wrap-up theories episode I did with Gabby a while back, though I recommend having a snack on hand since it's a rather long episode. Anyway, back to talking about the current book we're reading. Rue's still telling a bit about her life in District 11. Unlike Katniss, music is a big part of Rue's life. Most people sing while they're working in the fields. Also, there's a lot of mockingjays. Rue even has a few that she considers friends with whom she sings a special song to at the end of the workday, and the birds repeat it to everyone else as a way to signal that it's the end of the workday. So clearly Rue has a good voice since mockingjays only repeat your song if they like your voice. Also, the mockingjays are just continuing to prove that they're good judges of character because Rue is the best and deserves to be protected at all cost. And shout out to that one mockingjay who in Ballad bit Coriolanus' hand. Apart from Lucy Gray, that bird is the best character in the book. I hope they include that part in the movie. Anyway, Katniss then tries to give Rue the pin since she realizes how much it would mean to her. But Rue insists that she keep it, and it's part of the reason that she decided to trust Katniss. Good call, Rue. And, okay, another side note. Overall, the movie did really, really well with the Katniss and Rue relationship. Amandla was perfectly casted. Jennifer Lawrence, of course, crushed playing Katniss. But I do wish we just got a little teensy bit more. Because there are a couple deleted scenes, and you can find them on YouTube. I'll link them down below in the show notes if I find them. But But I do understand having to cut for time, though I wish they had just snuck in that one line about how Katniss wearing the pin is what made Rue decide to trust her, because there's that one scene where Rue sings her 4-note tune to them, and, she could have snuck it in there. Also, Rue has her own little good luck charm. It's a necklace woven from some kind of grass with a carved wooden star or flower on it. And Katniss says, well, it works so far. I just wrote in my notes, insert agonized scream here. But I don't really want to scream right now. I want to save my voice. Anyway, they have a plan now. Katniss helps Rue collect wood and set up the first 2 places for the campfires that they're planning. The last one Rue will have time to do on her own. When everything's done, they'll meet at the spot where they ate their first meal together. Katniss makes sure that Rue is stocked up on food and gives her the sleeping bag in case they can't meet up that night. And Rue does teach Katniss her Mockingjay signal as a way to pass on the message that they're okay. And I'm going to read this bit on page 213 because it makes me emotional. Unexpectedly, Rue throws her arms around me. I only hesitate for a moment before I hug her back. You be careful, she says to me. You too, I say. I turn and head back to the stream, feeling somehow worried about Rue being killed, about Rue not being killed and the 2 of us being left for last, about leaving Rue alone, about leaving Prim alone back home. No, Prim has my mother and Gale and a baker who has promised she won't go hungry. Rue has only me. And here's another thought just to make this whole thing sadder. So Rue obviously gets compared to Prim, but she and Katniss are also really connected. 'Cause first of all, they both have a connection to the Mockingjays, and more notable, they're both the oldest siblings, and they take care of their younger siblings. And Rue's barely older than Katniss when she had to become the head of her family. Like, it hit me. Like, Rue was the oldest. She probably took out Tesserae to feed her family, just like Katniss did when she was 12. And little 12-year-old Katniss was probably so scared of being reaped, not only because it's her first year experiencing that terror, but she's also increased her odds of being chosen by taking out Tesserae. And Rue experiences that fear coming true. And also, again, because Rue is the oldest of 6, she's so used to taking care of others, she probably can't remember the last time someone's taken care of her the way Katniss is here. And last week I talked about how ironic and horrible it is with Katniss, in a literal death arena. Rue is being better fed than she is back home because of that line she said about never getting a whole leg to herself, and she's always giving her rations to her siblings. And now this on top of that. Like, it just makes this whole situation even more fucking sad than it already is. Anyway, I need to move on because I'm starting to get emotional already, and we're not even at the big emotional damage yet. Ugh. Anyway, where were we? Right, Katniss is heading to the career camp to do her part of the plan. On the way, she passes the area where the Tracker Jacker attack happened, and she starts thinking about Peeta and wonders if he had been the one that was killed earlier. And she's still struggling to remember what really happened when, she was all high on Tracker Jacker venom and she was standing over Glimmer's body. Did Peeta save her life? She remembers seeing him sparkle, so starts to doubt if it was real. And Katniss also refills her water and covers her backpack with more mud, since a bright orange backpack is not great for camouflage. Eventually, Katniss gets to the spot where Rue recommended, a bushy spot at the edge of the woods so she can spy on them and still be concealed. And from there, Katniss can see 4 tributes. The boy from 1, who we know is Marvel, but Katniss doesn't know his name yet. Cato and Clove from 2, and the boy from 3, whose name we never know. He made no impression on Katniss whatsoever during all the pre-game stuff in the Capitol. Doesn't know his name, training score, anything he said in his interview, but clearly has something of value to offer since the careers wouldn't let him live otherwise. Also, all of them are still recovering from the Tracker Jacker attack, because even from a distance, hiding in the bushes, Katniss can see the lumps on their faces. They didn't have the sense to remove the stingers or know which leaves to use to heal themselves, because I guess they only focus on learning to fight when training for the games, which is really stupid. At that point, you deserve to get usurped by someone like Katniss, who is not only skilled with a weapon, but can actually survive in the wilderness on her own. No wonder she's a popular tribute. Even without the whole star-crossed lovers plotline, I would bet on her. Anyway, so the cornucopia has been picked clean. All the supplies are in crates, bins piled neatly, like a pyramid, like Rue said. Though it's still questionable distance from the camp. One thing is clear, though. Destroying the supplies won't be as easy as it looks. The area around the pyramid is likely booby-trapped in some way. And just then, Cato is shouting, and it's clear that he spotted the first fire that Rue has set off, and the plan's, like, officially in motion. And just as predicted, as soon as the careers see the smoke, they begin arming themselves. Katniss hears them say that they'll bring the boy from 3 with them, which a small change from the movie, since when the careers leave to investigate the smoke, they leave him behind. But here he goes with the careers because they're all confident that no one could get to the supplies. Well, joke's on them. There's also a brief exchange where Marvel wonders if they need to worry about Loverboy, meaning Peeta, but Cato assures him that there's no way Peeta is a threat to them since he knows where he stabbed Peeta, and miracle he hasn't bled to death already, which, by the way, this is the second time that Cato has stabbed someone and they didn't die as a result, because he was the one that stabbed the girl from 8, right? That first night, but it didn't kill her, like Peeta had to go back and finish her off. Cato, you're not very good at your job that you've been training your whole life for. Anyway, more important, Peeta's wounded and alone out there. And Katniss can't fathom why he betrayed the careers for her. We all know, though. We all know. Also, Cato has, like, a personal vendetta against Katniss and wants to kill her himself, which we kind of already knew since he was so clearly butthurt from her upstaging him all throughout the pregame stuff in the Capitol. But after dropping the Tracker Jacker nest on them, it's now, like, much more personal. After the careers take off to go investigate the smoke, Katniss spends about half an hour pondering what to do next. She considers firing a flaming arrow at the pyramid, but there's no guarantee it would actually catch on fire, and it would tip the careers off to her skill with the bow. And just as Katniss is about to move closer to get a better look, she notices movement off to her right. It's Foxface. Haven't seen her in a while, and, Katniss was the one she forgot about earlier. As Foxface gets closer to the pyramid, she does a series of hops and jumps, making sure to land on certain spots on the ground. At one point, Katniss hears her let out a squeal when she overshoots and her hand lands on a spot she did not mean to land on, but nothing happens. Foxface regains her balance and soon reaches the supplies. Me and Katniss are obviously impressed with Foxface, first of all for being smart enough to figure out how to get around the booby-trapped, and personally, even if I did figure out how to get around it, I wouldn't be able to actually pull it off, despite being a former ballerina. I would have tripped and set the trap off the second I tried. Anyway, Foxface takes just enough food to sustain her for a little while, but not too much so that the careers wouldn't notice that stuff's missing. Then she flees back into the woods. Then Katniss is left, frustrated, trying to figure out what exactly the trap is, then realizes what it is as she recalls how Foxface reacted when she was off balance for just a moment and panicked, like the ground was going to explode. That's right, it's mind. Now it makes sense why the careers have kept the boy from 3 around. Back home he would work in factories where they make televisions, automobiles, and explosives, so naturally he's familiar with how mines work. Around the places where the tributes had originally been launched into the arena that have been dug up, that means, they dug up the mines and reactivated them as a way to guard the supplies. By now, Rue has set off the second fire in the distance, so the careers could start to wonder if it's some kind of trick, so Katniss needs to act fast. So she uses a few arrows to hit a sack of apples, causing them to go all around the ground, and it does the job. Sets off pretty much all the explosives, and the chapter ends with Katniss flying backwards. So with that being said, it's time for a break. When we come back, we'll deal with the consequences of that. Hey guys, it's Alyson from A Different Point in Time, and I am here to bring you another random recommendation. So, this week I'm recommending the first book in one of my favorite series ever. It's a fairly popular amongst, the middle grade genre, but it's one of those books that I think, anyone of any age can love. I read it in, late high school, just like on a whim, and remains to this day one of my favorite series ever, and that is The Land of Stories, Book 1, The Wishing Spell by Chris Colfer. So I'll read the description. Alex and Connor Bailey's world is about to change. When the twins' grandmother gives them a treasured fairy tale book, they have no idea they're about to enter a land beyond all imagining, the land of stories, where fairy tales are real. But as Alex and Connor soon discover, the stories they know so well haven't ended in this magical land. Goldilocks is now a wanted fugitive, Red Riding Hood has her own kingdom, and Queen Cinderella is about to become a mother. The twins know they must get back home somehow, but with the legendary evil queen hot on their tail, will they ever find the way? The Land of Stories, The Wishing Spell brings readers on a thrilling quest filled with magic spells, laugh-out-loud humor, and page-turning adventure. I mean, all, like, publishers say things like that to sell the book, but that last bit is, like, true. Like, I was laughing at this book. I remember not being able to put this down the first time I read it, and this is a series I will eventually cover on this podcast, like, in the far future, because I plan on doing this for a long time. But yeah, like, if you have a kid who you think would like this book, who loves fairy tales, if you're a fan of this TV series Once Upon a Time like I am, you will definitely love this series. And yeah, and like I said, I think anyone who just loves fairy tales and fun stories of any age can love this series. And I love Alex and Connor so much. So, that being said, let's get back into the episode. Okay, we're back. So Katniss has succeeded in her part of the plan. She set off the explosions to destroy the career supplies, but unfortunately for her, walking away from explosions is not as easy as the movies make us think that it is. No walking away in slow motion with your back to the destruction for you, Katniss. Nope, she lands on the ground hard and gets the wind knocked out of her. So, like I said, good news, her plans worked. The apples set off multiple mines. She can feel them going off because they're shaking the ground. Bad news, Katniss can't hear them. Katniss loses her hearing in this moment, but her right ear will eventually recover, mostly, but she's deaf in her left ear for the rest of the games, and the movie missed this problem entirely. Though Katniss does manage to shield her face from some of the debris that's, still flying from the explosions, but she does need to get out of there fast, since the careers will definitely come back to investigate the explosion. But unfortunately, getting away is not so simple. She's really dizzy and can't really walk in a straight line. But she does manage to crawl behind a bush and get out of sight, literally with 2 seconds to spare before the careers come back into the clearing. She also does manage not to leave a blood trail since her left ear is bleeding, and a couple more explosions also go off while she's crawling to her hiding spot, just to really drive home the fact that the supplies are just properly destroyed. And I'm going to read to you Cato's reaction since seeing the destroyed supplies, because it's kind of great. To say I make it in the nick of time is an understatement. I have literally just dragged myself into the tangle of bushes at the base of the trees when there's Cato, barreling into the plain, soon followed by his companions. His rage is so extreme it might be comical. So people really do tear out their hair and beat the ground with their fists. If I didn't know that it was aimed at me, at what I have done to him. Add that to my proximity, my inability to run or defend myself, and in fact, the whole thing has me terrified. I'm glad my hiding place makes it impossible for the cameras to get a close shot of me because I'm biting my nails like there's no tomorrow, gnawing off the last bits of nail polish, trying to keep my teeth from chattering. So yeah, kind of funny reaction from Cato, but also terrifying since we know that Cato is trained to kill people, and he'll demonstrate that to us in just a second. So the boy from 3 throws some stones at the wreckage, confirms that all the mines have been activated. And honestly, kid, this is when you should have ran. You did your job too well. I get you're probably in a little bit of shock, but run! And the others pick through the stuff, trying to find anything they can salvage, but fail to. And at this point, Cato is furious, starts yelling at the boy from 3, and he barely gets a chance to run before Cato catches him in a headlock and snaps his neck. Just like that, kid from 3's dead. So good job, Kato. We finally get to see, him kill someone for sure. Like, he probably killed someone in the bloodbath, but we didn't see it. So from what we've seen, he's failed to kill 2 people. I guarantee Clove has a much higher kill count than Kato. If anything, Clove should be the favored District 2 tribute to win. Speaking of Clove, she and Marvel are now trying to calm Kato down directly after he murdered someone. Then again, they're all numb to death at this point, probably. It takes Katniss a moment to realize, why they keep pointing at the sky. They think whoever set off the explosions is dead since they don't know about the arrow, and it's possible the explosion covered a cannon, so they'll find out that night who died. Joke's on them. Again. Then they move to the far side of the lake so that the hovercraft can collect the body. Night falls and the anthem starts playing. Katniss still can't hear the anthem playing, but she can see the seal. This guy shows a picture of the boy from 3 and the boy from 10, who was the one that died earlier that morning. So now the careers know that the person who destroyed their supplies did in fact survive. Then the careers get their night vision glasses things on and light some torches, and they start to hunt. Joke's on them, because the one they'll want to find the most is right there. And now she's in the safest spot from them since, they won't think to look in their own campsite. Katniss gets her own night vision glasses out since her hearing is insufficient. She drinks water, washes the blood off her ears so she doesn't draw any predators. She then goes mentally through everyone that's still alive. There's now 8 of them left. Betting's got to be really hot and intense by now. This is also the time when the games get down to the final 8 that they do a special on each surviving tribute. Even interview their friends and family back home. And it's been a long time since anyone from 12 made it to the final 8, much less 2 of them, so at the same time. Though according to Kato, Peeta could very likely be on his way out, but he doesn't get the final say in anything because, he did just lose all his supplies. Like Katniss says, let the 74th Hunger Games begin, Kato. Let them begin for real. Haha. Katniss then goes to sleep, doing her best to cover herself with leaves and pine needles under the bushes, and even uses her plastic sheet since she left the sleeping bag with Rue. When Katniss wakes up, she hears someone laugh. For a moment, she's worried that the careers are back, but it's only Foxface. And she once again proves how much smarter she is than the careers, because when she goes through all the destroyed supplies, she actually finds stuff to salvage. A metal pot and the blade of a knife. Then Katniss realizes Foxface probably laughed because now that the careers no longer have their main food source and have poor practical survival skills, so Foxface now might have an actual chance of winning. And Katniss even considers taking her on as a second ally, but decides against it because Foxface is far less trustworthy, and Katniss will likely get a knife to the back if she lets Foxface anywhere near her. So now Katniss considers just shooting Foxface, but before she can, Foxface hears something and then takes off. Katniss can't hear anything, nor does anyone show up, but, Foxface thought there was danger. It's a good idea to leave now. She decides to go the route by the stream, has an uneventful trip, which is nice since, enough things have happened to her. And she's gathering more water at the stream. She sees signs that the careers had been there, but it was a while ago. So in order to cover her tracks, Katniss walks barefoot in the stream. Again, Katniss is a smart cookie when it comes to survival. I wouldn't have thought of that. Yet, such an obvious and simple solution. She also shoots a couple fish. Katniss also keeps hoping that the hearing in her left ear will improve, but like I said earlier, that will remain not functioning for the rest of the games, which makes her feel pretty vulnerable since she relies on her hearing as much as sight when she's hunting. When Katniss gets to the site of her first meeting spot with Rue, it looks undisturbed, but no sign of Rue, and she never set off the third fire. But Katniss doesn't panic. Rue's smart, and she probably just has to hide and will meet up with Katniss when she can. But naturally, Katniss keeps getting more anxious as Rue keeps not showing up, and I don't blame her. Katniss also scales a tree to wait in case any of the careers come by. It's the perfect place to shoot them, and she also has 9 arrows left. Katniss is also having what in District 12 they call a hollow day, a day where no matter what you do, you can't fill your stomach. Sitting in a tree with nothing else to do doesn't help. But now she's more confident about getting food in the future since she has her bow. So between eating and the warm sun on her, this is the most relaxed Katniss has felt since first entering the arena, but Rue is still nowhere in sight. So by late afternoon, Katniss decides to go looking for her. She heads to the spot where the third fire would have gone off, but it's set up, but Rue never set it off. So Katniss goes hunting around for any sign of trouble. She's relieved for a moment when she hears a mockingjay sing Root's 4-note whistle, meaning she's all right. Katniss decides to sing the melody back, hoping it'll get to Rue, but then she hears the screaming. And I'm just gonna read the last bit of the chapter. It's a child's scream, a young girl's scream. There's no one in the arena capable of making that sound except Rue, and now I'm running, knowing this may be a trap, knowing the 3 careers may be poised to attack me, but I can't help myself. There's another high-pitched cry, this time my name. Katniss! Katniss! Rue! I shout back so she knows I'm near, so they know I'm near. And hopefully the girl who has attacked them with tracker jackers and gotten an 11 they still can't explain will be enough to pull their attention away from her. Rue, I'm coming! But then I break into the clearing. She's on the ground, hopelessly entangled in a net. She just has time to reach her hand through the mesh and say my name before the spear enters her body. And just like that, we're about to have the most heartbreaking scene in the whole book, possibly the whole trilogy, so we'll take a quick break and then deal with all the emotions when we come back. Hello guys, me again with another random recommendation. So this one is a book that I haven't read but was I've had for a while, been meaning to read, and recently was highly recommended to me by Gabby, so I am now recommending this on her behalf. I know how to speak words. It's called I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter by Erica L. Sanchez. This was pretty popular when it first came out, I think in 2017, but I haven't really heard anybody talk about it since. So I'll read you guys the description. Julia, a defiantly not your perfect Mexican daughter. She has big dreams of being a writer, and she refuses to allow her family's expectations to derail her plans. Olga, Julia's older sister, who was the perfect Mexican daughter. She went to a community college, worked a part-time job, and took care of her parents until an accident left her dead and eternally perfect. Connor, a white boy from Evanston who can't possibly understand Julia's world but wants to be part of it anyway. Angie, Olga's best friend, who let slip that there might have been more to Olga than everyone thought. Lorena, Julia's best friend and polar opposite. She doesn't believe that Olga could have kept any secrets, but she'll stick with Julia along the way. And seriously, how on earth can Julia fall in love or find the truth under the never-blinking eyes of her parents? From debut author Erica Sanchez comes a laugh-out-loud, poignant novel about losing a sister and finding yourself. So yeah, sounds like a really good coming-of-age book, and I can't wait to read it very soon, hopefully. I'm very bad at planning my TBRs. Anyway, back to the episode. Okay, we're back. I don't want to cover this part of the book. I want to pretend that everything works out and Rue and everyone gets to live happily ever after. But unfortunately for us, Suzanne said we can't have nice things. So here we go. This chapter opens with Marvel immediately dying because Katniss shot him in the neck. Good for her. Katniss looks around for anyone else, but Rue says no one else is around. And there's nothing really to say except to just read the scene. It starts on page 233. Rue has rolled to her side, her body curved in and around the spear. I shove the boy away from her and pull out my knife, freeing her from the net. One look at the wound, and I know it's far beyond my capacity to heal. Beyond anyone's, probably. The spearhead is buried deep into the shaft of her stomach. I crouch before her, staring helplessly at the embedded weapon. There's no point in comforting words, in telling her she'll be all right. She's no fool. Her hand reaches out, and I clutch it like a lifeline. as if it's me who's dying instead of Rue. You blew up the food, she whispers. Every last bit of it, I say. You have to win, she says. I'm going to. I'm going to win for both of us now. I promise. I hear a cannon and look up. It must be for the boy from District 1. Don't go. Rue tightens her grip on my hand. Of course not. Staying right here, I say. I'm moving closer to her, pulling her head into my lap. I gently brush the dark, thick hair behind her ear. Sing, she says, but I barely catch the word. Sing, I think. Sing what? I do know a few songs. Believe it or not, there was once music in my house too. Music I helped make. My father pulled me in with that remarkable voice, but I haven't sung much since he died, except when Prim is very sick. Then I sing her the same song she liked as a baby. Sing. My throat is tight with tears, hoarse from smoke and fatigue, but if this is Rue's last request, I at least have to try. The song that comes to me is a simple lullaby, one we sing fretful, hungry babies to sleep with. It's old, very old, I think, made up long ago in our hills when my music teacher calls a mountain air. But the words are easy and soothing, promising tomorrow will be more hopeful than this awful piece of time we call today. I give a small cough, swallow hard, and begin. Deep in the meadow, under the willow, a bed of grass, a soft green pillow. Lay down your head and close your sleepy eyes, and when again they open, the sun will rise. Here it's safe, here it's warm, here the daisies guard you from every harm. Here your dreams are sweet, and tomorrow brings them true. Here is the place where I love you. Rue's eyes have fluttered shut. Her chest moves, but only slightly. My throat releases the tears as they slide down my cheeks, but I have to finish the song for her. Deep in the meadow, hidden far away, a cloak of leaves, a moonbeam ray. Forget your woes and let your troubles lay. Then when again it's morning, they'll wash away. Here it's safe, here it's warm, here the daisies guard you from every harm. The final lines are barely audible. Here your dreams are sweet, and tomorrow brings them true. Here is the place where I love you. Everything's still and quiet. Then almost eerily, the mockingjays take up my song. For a moment I sit there, watching my tears drip down on her face. Rue's cannon fires. I lean forward and press my lips against her temple. Slowly, as if not to wake her, I lay her head back on the ground and release her hand. I'll link some covers to the Meadow song in the show notes if you want to go listen to them, including the one that Jennifer Lawrence actually sings. I think I might end up reading this whole scene because it's so good. So I will. So I'm going to pick up on page 236. I can't stop looking at Rue, smaller than ever, a baby animal curled up in a nest of netting. I can't bring myself to leave her like this, past harm, but seemingly utterly defenseless. To hate the boy from District 1, who also appears so vulnerable in death, seems inadequate. It's the Capitol I hate for doing this to all of us. Gale's voice is in my head, his ravings against the Capitol no longer pointless, no longer being ignored. Rue's death has forced me to confront my own fury against the cruelty, the injustice they inflict upon us. But here, even more strongly than at home, I feel my impotence. There's no way to take revenge on the Capitol. Is there? Then I remember Peeta's words on the roof. Only I keep wishing I could think of a way to show the Capitol they don't own me, that I'm more than just a piece in their games. And for the first time, I understand what he means. I want to do something, right here, right now, to shame them, to make them accountable, to show the Capitol that whatever they do or force us to do, there is a part of every tribute they can't own, that Rue was more than a piece in their games, and so am I. A few steps into the woods grows a bank of wildflowers. Perhaps they are really weeds of some sort, but they have blossoms in beautiful shades of violet and yellow and white. I gather up an armful and come back to Rue's side. Slowly, one stem at a time, I decorate her body in the flowers, covering the ugly wound, wreathing her face, weaving her hair with bright colors. They'll have to show it, or even if they choose to turn the cameras elsewhere at this moment, they'll have to bring them back when they collect the bodies, and everyone will see her then and know I did it. I step back and take a last look at Rue. She could really be asleep in that meadow after all. Bye, Rue, I whisper. I press the 3 middle fingers of my left hand against my lips and hold them out to her and hold them out in her direction. Then I walk away without looking back. Now, normally in this podcast, I only talk about books and events that happen in those books because I like to use fiction as a form of escapism. It's something we all need every so often. But unfortunately, this scene that we're reading and talking about is relevant to a very real and horrific tragedy that happened recently. In case you haven't heard, on May 24th, last Tuesday, at the time I'm recording, so like a week ago when this episode comes out, a gunman broke into Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, and killed 19 children and 2 teachers. And again, this was an elementary school. All the kids who died are younger than Rue, who is a fictional character, by the way, but last week, 19 very real children died. 21 families are never going to see their loved ones again. Not to mention the trauma that the survivors are going to have to deal with for the rest of their lives. And to make things worse, there's now an ongoing investigation because police officers stood outside the school for over 40 minutes while the gunman was inside murdering children. They even detained parents who wanted to go inside to save their own children. That's right, they stopped parents from saving their children. And that was after the cops saved their own kids, by the way. And unfortunately, we've all seen this movie play out before. We all know what's going to happen next. We'll say never again, but it will happen again. Because remember when we said never again when Sandy Hook happened? Well, here it is. It happened again. We still haven't even processed the Buffalo shooting, and then this happens. Politicians will offer thoughts and prayers, but not do anything, and they can do something about it, by the way. They just don't. And I don't care if you want to own a gun. That is your choice. That is your right. What I do care about is how easy it is to get one. If I had to take multiple tests and like 10 hours of lessons to get my driver's license, then it should take at least that much effort to get a gun. Again, being very clear, I don't want anyone's gun to be taken away. I just want there to be procedures in place to reduce the chances of lunatics like that piece of shit getting their hands on a dangerous weapon. And every time we try to talk about this, certain groups of people shut those conversations down. Politicians don't do anything. They don't want to rock the boat so they can stay in office. Fuck you for that. Just like how Rue was more than a piece in the Capitals games, these children are not pieces in whatever fucking game these people in power think they're playing. If you don't like anything I'm saying, that's fine. You can leave. I won't force you to stay. And if you're listening and you happen to be someone that was directly impacted by this tragedy, I don't even have the words to tell you how sorry I am. You don't deserve that. No one does. I know nothing I can say can make it better, but you are in my thoughts and I'm thinking of you. And before we move on and go back to the book that, we're actually here talking about, I just want to take a moment to read the names of the children and the 2 teachers who were lost because they deserve to be remembered, and I apologize if I accidentally mispronounce anyone's names. McKenna Lee Elroyd, age 10, Layla Salazar, 11, Miranda Mathis, 11, Navia Bravo, age 10, Jose Manuel Flores Jr., age 10, Xavier Lopez, age 10, Tess Marie Mata, age 10, Rogelio Torres, age 11, Ellie Amaya Garcia, age 9, Ilahana Torres, age 10, Annabelle Guadalupe Rodriguez, age 10, Jackie Cazares, age 9, Uzziah Garcia, age not listed, but probably age 10. Jace Carmelo Levenos, age 10. Maite Yuliana Rodriguez, age 10. Shahile Silgareo, age 10. Irma Garcia, age 48. Ava Morales, age 44, so those are the two teachers. Ho Garza, age 10. Alexandria Lexi Ania Rubio, age 10. And Alithia Ramirez, age 10. And again, I'm really sorry if I mispronounced anyone's name. There's no way for me to smoothly transition back to the book, so I'm just gonna jump into it. So, birds fall silent when the hovercraft shows up to collect the bodies. Young Mockingjay sings Rue's melody. Katniss is understandably pretty numb right about now. When she gets ready to make camp for the night, a sponsor gift is delivered, and it's a small loaf of bread. Thanks to Peeta's bread lessons, Katniss recognizes that it's a gift from District 11, and this is a first because the people of a district giving a sponsor gift to a tribute that's not their own, and I don't even know how to, it just gives me chills every time I read it. And Katniss thanks the people of District 11 so that they know their gift has been recognized, and goes to sleep since she understandably wants the day to just be over, and she thinks of a plan of action in the morning. For once, Katniss actually has some nice dreams, seeing her father in the woods and not dying in the mines, sitting in the sun and eating cake with Prim, Rue decked out in flowers, teaching her to talk to the Mockingjays, no signs of wounds or blood on her. And I'm not going to go into too much detail because it's mostly Katniss just feeling heavy, struggling to motivate herself to do things and move through the day. Then when she goes through Marvel's things, she notices, in terms of the food that he carried around, he only had a pack of dried fruit, which really shows how arrogant the careers are, since they don't feel the need to carry around much food since there's so much waiting for them back at camp, and they all thought the food would be safe. Idiots. Katniss starts thinking about everyone that's left, and Peeta specifically wants to tell him about the flowers that she did for Rue, how she understands now that what he was trying to say on the rooftop. And there's a line on page 242 that's pretty significant that I'll just read for you guys. But I told Rue I'd be there for both of us, and somehow that seems even more important than the vow I gave Prim. I really think I stand a chance of doing it now, winning. It's not just having the arrows or outsmarting the careers a few times, although those things help. Something happened when I was holding Rue's hand, watching the life drain out of her. Now I am determined to avenge her, to make her loss unforgettable, and I can only do that by winning and thereby making myself unforgettable. Love that line. That night, Katniss gets ready for bed early since the heaviness is still overwhelming her, and it takes her a minute to realize why she can't stop thinking about Marvel. It's because he's her first official kill. And, you can obviously credit Katniss with the death of Glimmer and the girl from 4 as a result of the Tracker Jacker fiasco, but this was the first time that Katniss knew someone was going to die for sure because of her direct action. She thinks back to what Gale said when they were saying goodbye after the reaping, about how he said that hunting people isn't that different to hunting animals. In execution, yes, very similar, but the aftermath is very different, and unfortunately Katniss will really have to deal with that aftermath in the sequel, but we're not there yet. For now, Katniss tries to banish Marvel from her thoughts and only manages to do so by remembering that he was the one who killed Rue. The rest of the day for Katniss is uneventful, and no deaths were reported in the sky, so it's only a matter of time before the next catastrophe drives the tributes together. And just like I did when part 1 ended, I'm going to read the last page of part 2 because, once again, something significant happens. So it starts with her hearing some kind of trumpets. For the most part, the only communication the tributes get from outside the arena is the nightly death toll, but occasionally there will be trumpets followed by an announcement. Usually this will be a call to a feast. When food is scarce, the game makers will invite the players to a banquet, somewhere known to all like the cornucopia, as an inducement to gather a fight. Sometimes there is a feast, sometimes there's nothing but a loaf of stale bread for the tributes to compete for. I wouldn't go in for the food, but this could be an ideal time to take out a few competitors. Claudius Templesmith's voice booms down from the overhead, congratulating the 6 of us who remain, but he is not inviting us to a feast. He is saying something very confusing. There's been a rule change in the games. A rule change? That in itself is mind-bending, since we don't really have rules to speak of except don't step off your circle for 60 seconds and the unspoken rule about not eating one another. Under the new rule, both tributes from the same district will be declared winners if they are the last 2 alive. Claudius pauses as if he knows we're not getting it, and repeats the change again. The news sinks in. 2 tributes can win this year, if they're from the same district. Both can live. Both of us can live. Before I stop myself, I call out Peeta's name. Just like that, we are at the end of the episode. Next time we'll be diving into some good Everlark moments in order to cope with the tragedy that was this chapter. I don't know how to explain it, but something about Rue's death and Sejanus's just, I don't know, hit me more than pretty much any other death in this series. Like, I don't know how Suzanne does it, but every time I read this book or ballad, I almost hope for a different outcome. Like, maybe it'll work out this time. Or when I watch Revenge of the Sith and think, maybe Anakin will make the right choice this time. Maybe the Titanic won't hit the iceberg this time. Anyway, so next time we'll talk about chapters 19 to 21. Like I said at the beginning, I will be in Ireland next week, so I won't get to talk to you guys for a couple weeks, but you'll still hear from me since I have those bonus episodes that I pre-recorded and will come out. So, thank you guys so much again for listening. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great day/night, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye!